Yeah, it's got loads of elements of punk in there, and I wanted to bring Virus into a new dimension. I didn't want to, because I thought, we got slated in the press for being, of our first album, of being like a Neanderthal thrash, basically, because there was no thought.
It's just the first album, but the one you weren't on.
The one I wasn't on.
Right. Okay.
I mean, we got totally slated for the first album, and what happened there was that when I joined, I wasn't overly impressed with the demo, to be quite honest. But I thought, I'll give it a go. I can play it. I could have played it in my sleep, really.
Right.
But I gave it a go, and I thought, I started to like it. There was elements there I really liked it, and I really liked the image of the post-nuclear thing. I thought it was fantastic, and of course they had. I totally changed my image as well, because I was just basically a punk,
right,
when I was in London. But I was listening to thrash. I was listening to early Metallica, Slayer, Diamond Head. I was listening to all the early stuff. I mean, I was totally influenced by a lot of the thrash stuff. Armored Saint was another one I used to listen to. Anvil.
Right.
And I'd listen to all these bands. These were my influence, and so I brought that influence into Virus, and I think I kind of metalized it, and I hope I did.
Right. Now, I mean, it's interesting. You talk about the period that Virus sort of really did come to prominence. Was really the golden era of what we look back on as thrash metal. I mean, Venom had come through. You had you had Virus and the UK bands making a good fist of it, but you had the American Big Four. Sort of, they'd already got a foothold. But then you had bands like Suicidal Tendencies coming through, who bought a lot of the punk thing, and then they started to become more metal and stuff like that. But I mean, these are the gigs that people now look back on and say, "Oh wow, this was a time." What do you remember about that time? Very much, as a fan and as a musician.
I remember just being in awe. I mean, the first time I saw Metallica, I mean, I was in awe of Metallica. I mean, they weren't as good as I thought. They weren't as good as musicians back then as they are now, obviously. But I really, the one I thought was the best was Slayer, and I still stick to my guns now that I think Slayer is probably the best thrash band of all time.
Right.
And the Big Four. You're saying that there's a Big Four. There's Anthrax as well,
and Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, and Slayer is what are perceived as the Big Four.
Well, I think there's another one on just on the edge there who I particularly followed was Exodus. I mean,
right. Well, I mean, people because they were there kind of first, but I just see. I mean, when you come down to the sort of, I always say, well, Exodus were right, but they just weren't as good. They didn't write as good. The reason that the Big Four were the Big Four is they wrote better songs basically than anyone else.
They probably did.
And that's what got them the deals that pushed them.
Yeah.
And then of course when they get a promotion, it pushes them further and further away. For example, what we were saying about Virus, in a way, you had good promotion.
Yeah, we had very good promotion.
It helped you to a certain extent. Right, we're going to play some music, and then we'll come back and have a chat about that whole scene again. Lunacy from Virus there. Before the ads, it was Anvil and Bottom Feeder. Excuse me. I've got Coke and Dave from Virus in the studio with me. Welcome, guys. Playing in Streatham at the Rock Attic in Streatham this Saturday and next Saturday.
Yep.
Okay, check out myspace.com/Virus Thrash. Virus Thrash for more news on the band and dates and stuff like that. We were talking off mic about some of the big gigs that Virus did, and as we said earlier, you played some seriously big ones.
Yeah.
For a UK thrash band. Did you feel that UK thrash was looked down upon?
Yes, I think it was compared to the Americans.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people in Britain expected the Americans to be better than us, when in actual fact a lot of the British bands were better than some of the American bands.
Right. But they kind of just got the kudos because they were American. England seems to have this endemic thing of, like, if it's from abroad, especially America, it's got to be good. But if it's from the UK, there's got to be something, and there are plenty of great bands from the UK.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic the way the music scene's gone. I mean, it's brought out some fantastic British bands that are playing in Europe these days and doing really, really well. I think a lot of the American bands these days are like looking at the British bands,
right,
to get something from them, especially Gamma Bomb, who are doing so well.
Yeah. So now some of the big gigs. There was the Celtic Cross Creator Tour, which
Celtic Frost Creator,
saw you playing at Hammersmith.
Yeah.
Obviously supporting Suicidals at the Clarendon, Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah.
Playing with Death Angel.
Yeah.
They're probably three of the biggest. What are your memories of those shows?
Oh, fantastic. We got on really, really well with Death Angel. Although,
who are a great bunch of blokes.
They really are nice blokes, yeah, and they're all related in some way.
They're all cousins. Well, they were all cousins.
Yeah,
for a while.
Yeah, well, when we knew them, they were all sort of, let's keep it in the family sort of thing. But yeah, they were a great bunch of guys.
And all about 15 back then, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean the drummer was 16 and he was phenomenal.
Right.
I mean,
it's like you meet them now and you still think that they, you look at them and you think, you're really young, because I mean they were that young back in the day, younger than you, Dave.
Yeah, well, there we go.
God, yeah.
But so I mean,
at least they don't throw the rattle out the pram on occasions.
Is that one of your percussion accompaniments, the rattle?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a dummy to go with it.
These were thrash gigs. When thrash was at its most intense. It hadn't really commercialised. A lot of these bands, Death Angel, for example, would evolve into something beyond a thrash band. Suicidals would change dramatically.
Yeah.
Celtic Frost, for example, Creator would kind of hold true to that whole thing. But I mean, at this particular moment in time, it was a very vibrant, young, and energetic scene.
Yeah, it was a new thing. I mean, it was getting picked up everywhere in Europe, and especially the American bands. A lot of the Europeans were like picking up on the not so well known American bands, such bands like the Cro-Mags, I suppose Leeway, Ludachrist. These were all like American. They're all basically American hardcore bands to start with. It became thrash bands. There was DRI. There was Carnivore from Western America. There was Flotsam and Jetsam. There was bands like Forbidden.
Well, it's that whole second wave of the Bay Area as well.
Well, the Bay Area was where it all started, really. And like a lot of people just took their influences from the Bay Area, and it seems to be it's a complete cycle. It's just like one cycle. It's come back.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me because I hear these bands and there's so much technology out there today. They got the sound of the 1980s back again.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Well, I mean, there is which we'll talk about in a bit. Obviously, the resurgence of interest in thrash, pure thrash.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just stick with those gigs for the time being, I mean, what do you reckon? Well, what would you say your best gig was that you played?
Best gig, I suppose it would be. It would have to be the Death Angel gig in, I think it was Newport Pagnell.
Right.
Apparently, according to the crowd, we blew Death Angel off the stage.
Right.
Which
no mean feat, because they were very, very good.
This is true what happened. Actually, when Death Angel came on, the crowd was spitting at them and they were chanting Virus.
Right.
Which was unusual, and I thought it was unusual because I'm not one to blow my own trumpet. But